they thought they should not vote for. There has been a certain amount of disinformation and misinformation about that in the press. And yesterday, or about a week ago rather, the date here is the 6th of October, there was an informed letter to the editor written by Dave Welch, who's the executive director of the Houston Area Pastors Council. And this is his response, and I thought this was a fitting introduction to our study today. The Free the Pulpit Sunday, he writes, promoted by the Alliance Defense Fund and participated in by many churches across America on September 28th, was a stand for some foundational, historic, and constitutional freedoms. The Chronicle editorial Bully Pulpits on Wednesday missed the point entirely. No surprise. That's my editorial. And applied a perspective that is misinformed at best. Very simply, the question is not whether it's a blessing to a candidate for a church to endorse him or her, or even whether it's effective. Frankly, a pastor's and or church's endorsement may have no effect at all if it does not influence the parishioners to cast an informed vote. The core principle is that theologically, historically, and legally, the federal government has no authority to dictate what a pastor preaches from his pulpit. Oppressive interference by the state, which began only as recently as 1954, it was snuck through in the dead of night as a rider on an appropriations bill by Senator Lyndon Johnson, has no precedence in our nation's history and has nothing whatsoever to do with the First Amendment. Incidentally, there was a nonprofit organization that was taking pot shots at him, so he just put this rider in that prohibited nonprofits from taking a political stand. He wasn't targeting churches, but somebody woke up a few years later and said, we can apply this to churches and shut down the pastors. Dave goes on to write, the church as an institution was uniformly recognized by the framers of the Constitution to not only precede the institution of government, but as fundamental to its survival. Taxing the church was a basic violation of the very separation of the institutions that would grant the government, as stated in McCulloch versus Maryland, the power to destroy the church. Great phrase came out of that decision, that taxing is the power to tax is the power to destroy. Remember that. No such power was ever given until the Johnson gag rule was adopted by Congress, in which most did not even know this provision was included. The fact is that these are clear unconstitutional restrictions of freedom of religion and freedom of speech levied upon churches that have been improperly counseled, that advance recognition of their nonprofit status through Section 501c3 of the IRS Code was necessary. It is not. Most importantly, the power of the federal government or government at any level, once used to silence one group of citizens, can and has been used to silence others. Clergy who sell their duty to God and their congregants to preach His truth on every subject for the sake of an insignificant, largely perceived financial benefit deserve to lose their freedoms and their pulpits. We honor and celebrate the pastors who joined thousands of years of their predecessors in declaring that duty and freedom are more precious than a few dollars, and that governing authority, which only exists by the authority of our Creator and the consent of the governed, must be constrained and shackled, not the church. So, we begin our study. How is it that we are to make decisions when we go into the voting booth? Well, let's begin by listening to the counsel of two of the founding fathers of the American Republic. First of all, from John Jay, who was a president of the Continental Congress and also first Chief Justice and a contributor to the Federalist Papers. He stated, Providence has given to our people the choice of their rulers. And it is the duty as well as the privilege and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers. Benjamin Rush, another one of the founders, signer of the Declaration of Independence, also served in three early presidential administrations, stated, every citizen of a republic must watch for the state as if its liberties depended upon his vigilance alone. It is our responsibility to be informed. It is our responsibility to study. It is our responsibility to vote in an informed and intelligent manner. The founders understood tyranny. They had lived under the tyranny of George III. They understood the value of freedom, and that freedom was liberty from the constraints of government. And they realized the nature of the government that they formed and that they established in the Constitution, and they also understood the tenuous foundation on which it rested, that is, the vote of the individual citizen. That each generation would have to fight in numerous ways to preserve their liberties from tyrannical government, which had been earned by these men. Unfortunately, today, very few have taken the time to truly understand the context of the formation of our republic or the origin of the ideas that shaped it. This is unfortunate because it was those ideas that dominated and controlled this nation for over 150 years and that made it the great nation that it is. The blessings, the freedom, the prosperity that we enjoy is not the result of 19th and 20th century ideas. It is the product of 17th and 18th century ideas. And if we do not understand those ideas and continue those ideas, we will lose the freedoms, the blessings, and the prosperity that we have. It's my thesis this morning that if we are going to choose wisely in the election process, then we must choose leaders that understand our historical roots. They understand our heritage. They believe and are committed to the ideas which energized our founders, and they should be dedicated to promote a government and legislation which is in keeping with those ideas. In a message at a rally in Denver in 1911, Woodrow Wilson made the following observation. A nation which does not remember what it was yesterday does not know what it is today nor what it is trying to do. We're trying to do a futile thing if we do not know where we came from or what we are about. And it is sad to say that most people in America do not understand our foundational documents. They do not understand the history. They do not understand the context out of which our government was formed. We must choose the kind of leaders that listen to the words of the Founding Fathers, who understand where their ideas came from and understand the kind of leaders that the Founders thought that we should have. Many of them wrote about this topic. They were incredibly concerned about how subsequent generations would vote, the kind of leaders that they would choose, and their tendency to squander the liberties that were so dearly bought on the field of battle. One of the founders, Elias Boudinot, who was a president of the Continental Congress, wrote, "If the moral character of a people once degenerates, their political character must follow. These considerations should lead to an attentive solicitude to be religiously careful." See, don't get caught in that modern trap of thinking that religion doesn't have anything to do with politics. That is just the devil's lie. Our founders all understood that. You will see that this morning and Tuesday night, that they did not subscribe to this modern view of the so-called separation of church and state. Boudinot went on to say, these considerations should lead to an attentive solicitude to be religiously careful in our choice of all public officers and judge of the tree by its fruits. It's important, they believe, to know the religious convictions, the beliefs that shape the character and would shape the policies of elected officials. Now, by taking this approach, with this emphasis on history, I'm already demonstrating one of the core principles which we should use in evaluating a leader. This is one of those more abstract principles, one of those hidden principles that deals with assumptions or presuppositions. Nevertheless, I think it is the most important criterion we can use in evaluating a leader. The principle deals with the underlying assumptions or presuppositions related to interpretation of law, which relates to the interpretation of the Constitution and the foundation of this nation. For in order to interpret the Constitution, in my view, or to interpret law, we have to have an understanding and appreciation of two things: history and precedents.